Welcome back to those who watched my Wizardry 6 and Wizardry 7 playthroughs. And if you haven't watched them, I encourage you to go back and see where all this data came from. So moving into Wizardry 8, the whole paradigm changes on us. Multi-classing is now discouraged by the system because the game adds the concept of a character level in addition to a class level. It is nearly impossible, without massive grinding, to reach into the high character level 20s. In addition, the game scales the difficulty with your character level, so changing classes outside a very early game is an almost non-viable strategy. In my strategy, I make a single class change immediately after starting the game for the Ranger specifically, converting that to a Gadgeteer. The Gadgeteer is a new class available in Wizardry 8, and a very good one due to essentially free spellcasting using gadgets and an extremely powerful gun that automatically upgrades as you level up. In a similar manner to the Bard, that is, with free spellcasting. I also make another class change for several characters to a Rogue for a single level, and then back to their original class. I do this to gain access to the Stealth and Shield skills, and grind those skills in a marathon battle against low-level enemies, which you'll see in 2 different videos. The other major change is that you have the ability to self-direct the character level up attribute increases. The attribute maximum has been raised to 100, when previously it was 18, technically 20. When a specific attribute reaches 100, the character gains access to the super skill associated with that attribute. Each attribute now has a significant impact on the resulting character skill set and battle capability. So for example, getting both speed and sense to a minimum of 55 is extremely important to effectively fight in late game. 55 is because if you do the math, with a haste level 7, that gets you to 100, and if you get over 100, it's really useless. The game kind of throws it away. Strength has stepping benefits in carry capacity and armor class for each multiple of 10 you achieve. Therefore, it is usually beneficial to raise a character's strength to the nearest multiple of 10, even if they are not melee characters. When increasing skills, it was also made impossible to focus one skill to maximum. Each level up, any given skill can only be assigned 3 points, up to a maximum of 75. All points above 75 must be earned naturally. Therefore, which skills are not given points is a major part of the min-max strategy. A good example is a character's weapon and magic element skills. Fighting with your weapon and casting spells will naturally increase these stats over time. Notably, magic schools are distinct from magic elements, magic skills that is. You do want to raise the magic school as quickly as possible to obtain access to more powerful spells from that school. Okay, I say all this to understand, or so that you understand the character progression that I'm showing right here. So notice that I'm focusing on 2 attributes and 3 skills at any given time, with minor exceptions. Attributes can only be gained by level up, artifact, or special event, and artifact doesn't count towards your raising them to 100, by the way. So if for any reason you get a bunch of natural skill points in whatever I am focusing, feel free to select whatever else suits your playstyle, but the ones I've listed here are the most important for each character class. Also notice that hybrid classes don't get access to the magic schools until level 5, so you have a small window to boost other skills as you see fit, or a skill, in my case for Ghost Close Combat. For all frontline fighters, I'm focusing Strength and Dex, followed by Vitality and Senses. So Strength increases damage, Dexterity increases hit. So those are the 2 most important in my view. Also, when Dexterity reaches 100, the character is granted access to the Reflection skill, which raises AC in a similar manner to Stealth, and stacks with it too. So Senses can also influence hit chance, but primarily improve initiative and critical strike. So whenever they import, because they started from Wizardry 7, they will import with a skill of 20. So a skill of 100 in Wizardry 7 is cut in a fifth, and in some cases it's cut a little bit more than that, but other things kind of add in. So in general, if you had 100 in Wizardry 7, you have 20 in Wizardry 8 to start. Now on top of that, some skills are closed. So for instance, the samurai cannot learn or cannot increase stealth. So whatever stealth they have is what they have. However, they can class change into a rogue to get more, which I'll get into next. So the backline personnel all have a unique progression um, suitable to their class strengths. So the bishop, obviously as a spellcaster, is pushing intelligence and piety, while the gadgeteer is pushing dexterity and sense. So sense will get me eagle eye. Dexterity, we already talked about, gets reflection. Intelligence gets you power cast, and piety gets you iron will. Iron will is nice, but the piety is more just for uh, the divinity school. All right, and so on the bard side, which I'll get back to that later, I will pick up a bard in mid game. So most of the stats in the first few levels are not selected by me, they're selected by the game developers. So I'm just picking up where they left off. I finish out dexterity and slightly raise strength before focusing on intelligence and vitality. So intelligence is a statistic that influences music and gadgeteering, which is why on the gadgeteer I'm also pushing intelligence and vitality. So moving over to the equipment section, let me scroll up. Note that early game equipment assigned to each character may have been carried forward by a different character, so you'll need to perform some mix and matching once you start, and you'll see me do that in my first video. Also, a particular note is that there are two additional characters shown here, so Miles and Vi, that you didn't bring with you. That is because you can now recruit additional characters to join your party as you progress through the game. You get two what are called RPCs, recruitable player characters. Um, V Domina is available early in the game and also unlocks some story content that you wouldn't normally have access to. The best all-round character for the other slot is Sax, which is an Umpani bard. Bards are extremely useful in this game, and if you choose not to side with the Umpani or select a different companion, I suggest you switch one of the playable characters to bard when you start. But since you won't get access to the Umpani camp immediately, Miles is a great short-term stand-in and available right before you meet V Domina. So moving further down, I've listed the spells that you'll want to learn, want to use your level up spell picks on. So because hybrid classes only start learning spells at level 5, and by the time you finish the game, you will be in the low 20s. Therefore, you only have 15 or so spell picks to use or available to you. That means you only have 7 to 10 picks that can be used on spells that could otherwise be learned through books. So, for instance, Alchemy, that's the ninja. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spells have to be learned or can only be learned via level up. So if you only get 15 picks, that means you only get 8 ones you can use for lower level spells. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Um, the bishop, however, would need to learn all of these via spell picks. So the bishop should only learn spells below level 5 and below via books. You should never use a spell pick as a bishop until you get to level 6 spells. And even some level 6 spells can be learned from books, such as Banish. Okay. To the right, also the character level requirements. So if you are a spellcaster class or the bishop class, you get access to spell levels or higher spell levels at lower character levels. So you only have to be level 11 to get access to level 5 spells. And that's important because the portal is a level 5 spell. So Bishop will get access to it at level 11. Everybody else will get access to it at level 15. So to the right is the locations where important items can be found. Like Wizardry 7, Wizardry 8 is a non-linear, open world concept. So it is possible to quick rush to specific vendors if you have the cash for the item you really want. However, in general, this is not better than just progressing into the area normally, with the possible exception of Pharaoh at Rapak's castle once you're able to survive the area. Also, some of these gear don't show up until you reach at least a level 11. So just because you can make it to the vendor doesn't mean they'll sell you the item. And typically they only have one, if they have the one item, and you'll have to wait 24 hours before it'll show back up again, assuming it shows back up again. Some of them are kind of random. All right, and the next section over. This progression is a rough outline of where I went and why. Um, so a couple of notes at the beginning. Whenever you're doing alchemy, which you'll see me do at several points throughout the videos, you'll want to mix one at a time instead of in stacks of 5. The reason for this is each time that you do a mix, whether it's a quantity 1 or quantity 5, it's considered one mix. And the number of mixes contribute to how much your alchemy skill raises. So if you do 5 stacks of 1 or 1 stack of 5, the 5 stacks of 1 counts as 5 mixes and will get you higher skill levels. And then for engineering and for bards, you use gadgets or you use instruments, and each time you do that, you can increase your engineering or increase your music skill. So lightning rod is something that is just available to you. It doesn't have to be built, that you find very early in the game. You have to use it in combat. It's an energy blast, but otherwise it's very useful. Searchlight and the X-ray scanner is something you'll build later and can be used out of combat to grind your skill level if you want to. So feel free to read over this in my um, documentation section. It's posted on Google Drive, but you can see where I'm going to and what the important things that are doing there. So the next section over is spell grinding. So what spells in what realms you have access to, and what you can do to grind that skill level. So in general, light and hypnotic lure is how you're going to grind fire outside of combat. Water is going to be stamina, which is typically going to be in combat, but it can be outside. The monk is going to be probably slow here, not cure lesser condition for a combat one. Missile shield, obviously that's something you can cast out of combat. Cure poison only works if the person is poisoned. If they're not poisoned, it doesn't count. Knock knock and divine trap, always use those whenever you come across a trap or a lock. And as far as where you can buy these spells, that's below here. So Wizardry 8 is the first game in the series to support portals. And not just portals, but each character can have their own portal. It's a spell. So, and you can set them where you want at any point in the game. So there's also a Umpani and Trang teleporters, just like there was in Wizardry 7, that are set locations. And the Trang teleporter can go to multiple locations. So it's like a super teleporter. So the bishop, being the first one that's able to learn portal, is the one that I set as the train teleporter. And then as your other characters learn portal, uh, they can be used for other things. So Pharaoh is a good vendor that you're going to want to have a portal set to. Croc is also a nice one to have a portal at, but that's not as big of a deal. General Ymir in Mount Gygus will save you a lot of running, and then having one for Beijing or the Rapax Away camp later will also be helpful. And finally, on the alchemy potion side of things, you can see on the skill level in alchemy that you need to have, and what the input items are, and what the result is. So in general, at the beginning of the game, you're going to be doing light heals and moderate heals to get heavy heals. You're going to save them as much as you can. If you have to sell them, you have to sell them. It is a money making enterprise, but you're eventually going to run out of things you can buy to make them. Once you hit 20, if you have any stink bombs and boom bombs that you've picked up, you can make acid bombs. Those sell for a decent amount. You typically are not going to do the pick me ups because you won't have enough moderate heals left over. But once you hit 40, that's when the money making begins. So heavy heal to cure light condition makes a cure disease, and then heavy heal to cure disease makes a potion of renewal. And this is what's going to sell for a ton of money. So typically, by the time I hit 40, I've got enough saved up that I can go from 40 to 50, and then from 50 to 60 or 70, and just make a ton of potions of renewals. And then also, if you have any heavy stamina outside of the cure disease and cure light condition, those can be combined to make a potion of restoration, which is also a decent moneymaker. And then pick up or save any sneeze powders and flash powders because you can join those for pandemonium powder. The rest of these don't really matter. I just put them here for uh, completeness. Do not waste the magic nectars. Use those. Sell the potions of renewal. All right. And with that, that covers about everything that needs to happen. Um, Pay attention to the equipment loadout. It's I've optimized it pretty effectively so that everybody has a high armor class, but also more importantly is the high resistances. And enjoy the show. Thanks for watching.